Get ready for truth and transparency from an ocean of liberal tears. Welcome to the Blue Shark Show with your host, Mike Lang.
Granbury City Council elections, place 3, place 5. We got Bruce Wadley against Joni Keays, and we have Kathy Reidy against Stephen Vale. And we're here today with ALICIA Miller, that's Precinct Chair 9 for the Republican Party. It's great to have you here.
It's great to be here. Thank you, Mike.
Let's get right into it. I want to thank the candidates that answered the questionnaire, both Joni Keays and Kathy Reidy. Now, Bruce Wadley kind of had an answer, and Stephen Vale kind of had an answer. But let's go back to Joni Keays. Joni now is in a race with Bruce Wadley, the incumbent, and she filled out the questionnaires that we had. Now, this is all, we've had forums at the chamber. There's been forums for the Republican Party. And go look for yourself. Look at the candidates' responses. Do your homework and decide who you want to vote for. But going back to Joni Keays.
Joni Keays understands the infrastructure crisis that we were in, and unlike her opponent, she doesn't deny that we are in an infrastructure crisis. Anyone that has lived here for a while has seen the growth. We've been talking about it. I've lived here since 1996. As a business owner, businesses cannot thrive when the city is under a building moratorium. Right now, our developers have about $100 million on hold because the city is in this infrastructure crisis. And she knows that we have to increase the wastewater capacity before we can get out of that, and that we also have to be present and effective at these tech stop meetings to help get our road projects prioritized.
And it's not just, you go to a city council meeting for a couple hours and you go home and you're done for 2 more weeks, and you're almost told by the city staff what to do and how to do it, more like the city manager. But I think Joni's on the right track. A business lady, she knows what it is to actually work hard and do things in business, and she needs backing from the city that, taxpayers pay for. And it's time for this infrastructure crisis to get resolved. And I think Joni's the person with the solutions.
Yeah, I agree. And she was also endorsed by the Hood County Republican Party unanimously.
Let's get into the incumbent, Bruce Wadley. Sure, he's a nice guy once again, but he's an elected official. Let's go on what he has accomplished, his actions, what he has done or not done with the city. These aren't personal attacks. This is a job application for the citizens once again, and he's rerunning for his spot on the city council. Now, all the candidates in both the city council race, school board race, they were all emailed questions and given at least 48 hours notice of these questions. These questions aren't hard, folks. They go to your morals and values, and they go to the topics that are at hand right now. So if you're a candidate, you should know the topics that you're running for this position. If you're an elected official, you should know right off the bat. And if you don't, there's a problem about your issues and what you're doing sitting on the city council at this time. I received this email from Bruce Wadley. He did not answer the questions. Good evening, Mike. I received your email yesterday at 11 a.m. I had another appointment yesterday and prepared for the chamber forum last night. I worked today until right before the forum and had a meeting at lunch. I'm sorry I was unable to respond to your questions, but one day with the above schedule was not enough time. Please enter my response to each question as, quote, please see my response to this question, and he gave his website and said my website should be up in the next couple of days. Thanks, Bruce Wadley. That's not answering the question, directing me to another website that is not even up at that time. So if you have this amount of time to answer and you have a day, you've been sitting on the city council for years and you don't have these answers, something's wrong. If you think these questions are jaded, if you think they're targeted, by all means, please answer them and tell the citizens why, how you feel, what you believe, and how you're going to change things for the citizens with the infrastructure crisis we're in right now.
Because ultimately, you're answering to the people, not Blue Shark itself.
I can see why Bruce probably wouldn't want to answer some of these questions, because a lot of them focus on problems that have existed from the day he took office that he has done very little, if anything, to help solve. In fact, he's gone so far as to ignore these things. He's ignoring that we're in an infrastructure crisis, and he's ignoring the issues that we have with the city manager that are both well documented and irrefutable.
Also, Bruce Wadley voted to close down businesses and churches during COVID. And Joni Keays said that she would not do that.
And one of the first forums that we had for this race was at the Hood County Republican Women. And Bruce said some pretty concerning things during his opener.
I was asked to run for council 3 years ago. I had no idea what I was getting into. To tell you the truth, I didn't really want to do this. At the beginning, I enjoyed it, but I didn't really like it because we would have these 3 and 4 hour meetings, and how can you like those? But, you know, if it's a 4 hour meeting, it's because it needs to be 4 hours long. We have a lot to do. And I've really come to like the job. I certainly want to do it again.
And I find it interesting how much time he spent saying how much he didn't want to do this and how much it was kind of a pain for him. But then he came back at the very end quickly and said, oh, but it's okay now, and I guess I kind of like it.
And I can get, where it gets stressful sometimes, but if you're only putting in a couple hours a month here and there, that's not enough. We've got this infrastructure crisis that needs to be solved, and our city council needs to really, I know they're not full-time, but they really need to work to get this city to where it needs to be. This is a great city. People love to live here. Let's make it better. And we need new people in there to get this thing in the direction. And Joni Keays in the Bruce Wadley race, my opinion, far exceeds Bruce Wadley, who's the incumbent. And, do your research, go out and look at these things. But Joni Keays just, hands down, I think is far and away better.
One thing I noticed in the clip where he spoke at the Republican Women's meeting was that he said he was asked to run. So it makes you wonder who is asking him to run, and will they be asking him to vote a certain way, or who is he beholden to?
Alicia, it's funny you mentioned that, because during the campaign 3 years ago when Bruce Wadley went to run, he was sharing resources with then Councilman Tony Mobley, who has since resigned and suffered a devastating loss over the summer where he was rejected by 65% of the voters. And I did a study over Tony Mobley and Bruce Wadley's voting record for the time that they shared on the council together. And with 100% accuracy, those two voted the exact same on every vote and every measure that came before the council. So if that doesn't answer your question, I don't know what else to tell you.
Nate, we see that quite a bit, sometimes on the commissioner's court, but we see it on city council. Everybody's not going to agree 100% of the time, usually. And that's what we're talking about. We've got to get individuals elected that are going to stand up and step out and not be in fear of being rejected by anybody, but doing the right thing. Ask the questions. Granbury should not be in this infrastructure crisis. We just plain simple shouldn't be. And the city manager even spoke, said, hey, look, I'm sorry I made this political. It's a referendum maybe in the upcoming election. Well, Chris Kaufman, you're right. You're actually right on this. This is a referendum on why the city council is even keeping you around. And, we did a show on the contract. So, we need some changes. We need Granbury to step up and resolve all these issues with the infrastructure crisis. And that's why Joni Keays is the person here in place 3. Let's look at place 5. Now, this is Kathy Reidy, who is the incumbent that's been there for literally a few weeks, and she's running against Stephen Vale again. I want to thank Kathy Reidy for answering the questions. She did a good job, put herself out there, told everybody what she was going to do, wanted to do, her campaign promises, the ones she's kept. So she's doing a great job. Stephen Vale, once again, even in the other races, we had some problems with him answering the questions, then wishing he would have answered the questions, and then he did answer the questions but didn't follow the instructions, and then this time went back and forth again, and I've got more emails here, and his response on the Blue Shark questionnaire reads, given my current schedule of prior commitments, the lead time you provided was inadequate to provide further detail at this time for your readers. And then he wanted me to add, once again, what his website was. He could go to the website if they wanted to answer the questions, and went ahead and answered the questions over on his website after a while. Now, you're going to answer them anyway. You can copy and paste and put them in there and send them to the Blue Shark readers, watchers, but you didn't have enough respect to do that. He wants their vote, evidently, to at least answer the questions and put yourself out there, whether whoever's group it is. If you don't like Blue Shark, fine. If you don't like the Democrats, fine. But you should be able to stand on principle with your answers, and with us, you have not. Now, the incumbent, Kathy Reidy, who's been there for a few weeks, answered the questions, did a great job.
Yeah, I think she did a great job, and she was elected during the special runoff election in a come-from-behind victory in which she closed a 20-something point gap between the special election and the runoff. You know, she's been working very hard, not only campaigning, but also as a councilwoman. You know, she goes to those meetings. She's been going to commissioners' court meetings to help with the communication and cooperation there between the city and the county. And in just a few short weeks, she's already been delivering on some of her campaign promises, namely this infrastructure crisis. It's interesting watching Stephen Vale try to diminish what Kathy Reidy did during that city council meeting, where she got a few other people on the council to support her idea of starting the process of looking at alternate sites for the wastewater treatment plant that we very badly need to help end this infrastructure crisis and lift that building moratorium. You know, he wants to diminish what she's doing. She's standing on her record and running a very clean campaign. And, you know, it's just nice to see.
And Kathy Reidy was also unanimously endorsed by the Hood County Republican Party.
Kathy Reidy seems to be tuned in to what the infrastructure crisis is about, not just the wastewater treatment plant, you know, along with the developers that have spoken up saying, hey, let's get some solutions, let's get this thing taken care of, but also the traffic. And what we see from the other candidate, Stephen Vale, is, you know, of course, he's been on planning and zoning, and he should be able to see some of these issues that have come down the road, no pun intended, but they have not. It's been that status quo, and the traffic, you know, has been a situation that they've dropped the ball on throughout the years, not the state, but the city. And it goes back to that failed city manager leadership. And when you have a candidate, Stephen Vale, say, oh, hey, folks, we're going through growing pains. It's just, you know, we're growing. Of course, we're growing. But it's not growing pains, folks. This is a complete infrastructure crisis that will take years to solve because of lack of foresight, like the previous council in 2018 and the city manager that got here in 2019. And where has this been? You know, thank goodness we have people like Kathy Reidy stepping up to run.
And in the city council race, both Kathy Reidy and Joni Keays have been endorsed by the Hood County Republican Party. Also, in just the few short weeks that Kathy Reidy's been on city council, she is already making progress on infrastructure, both wastewater and traffic issues.
You know, for a long time, the city of Granbury was run by a very small group of people. And until this summer, when we had that special election, they were all pretty much in lockstep with each other, and they allowed the city to be ran de facto through the city manager. And they just seemed to, by all appearances, go along with whatever he said and whatever he suggested. Over the summer, the voters of Granbury elected Mayor Jim Jarrett to disrupt that and elected Councilwoman Kathy Reidy to disrupt that. Now, because that was a unexpired term left by Tony Mobley's resignation over the summer, She is on the ballot again, and I will be interested to see the voters of Granbury reelect Kathy Reidy and then send some reinforcements to the two of them by electing Miss Joni Keays. I think both Kathy Reidy and Joni Keays represent a change in direction, more pragmatic solutions that are focused on the taxpayers, and for more transparency in ending this infrastructure crisis. I think it's important that everybody get out to vote. Early voting starts on October 18th and runs through October 29th, with Election Day being November 2nd.
I want to thank Joni Keays and Kathy Reidy for answering the questions and having the respect for the citizens to step up and answer the questions in the way you believe and the solutions you believe that the citizens of Granbury need to see. And thank you for putting yourself out there. And now to Bruce Wadley and Stephen Vale. You want to answer the questions on your own website? That's fine. You think they're jaded in any way? That's fine. But at least give the citizens the respect to answer the questions, especially as an incumbent and a candidate that supposedly wants the job. You should take your information and want to get it out to as many people as possible. Whether they agree with you or not, that's what campaigning is about. And when you don't, and when you hide things, and you want to pretend things are going on, then that just diminishes what the citizens think and how they feel about you being able to handle the situations of a county that's, frankly, under an infrastructure crisis. And so thank you once again for all the candidates that have responded to the questionnaire here at Blue Shark. Shark Show out.